Austrian composer Joseph Haydn was possibly the funniest composer who ever lived. His output, which consists of symphonies, string quartets, piano solos, and more, brims with wit and humor. But what is it about Haydn's music that makes it funny? What are the specific musical devices that Haydn uses to create this humor? Not only do the answers to these questions shed light on Haydn's compositional style, but they also inform how we as performers approach Haydn's works. To answer these questions, I examined the third movement of Haydn's Sonata in C major, Hoboken 50. I examined this movement's phrase structure, its harmonies, and other interesting features. I approached it with two main questions in mind. The first, what musical devices does Haydn use to create humor in this movement? Second, what, if anything, can the performer do to enhance the humorous qualities of this music? So first, let's turn to my first question. What musical devices does Haydn use to make this movement funny? Before I looked at Haydn's music, I decided I needed to find out what makes something funny. What is humor? Apparently, there are a lot of different theories out there about what makes something funny. But the one that I thought applied best to Haydn's music was incongruity theory. According to Immanuel Kant, who was one of the first proponents of incongruity theory, laughter is an affection arising from the sudden transformation of a strained expectation into nothing. So in other words, funny things set up an expectation and then they fail to meet that expectation. The classic "why did the chicken cross the road" joke is an example of this. We expect the punchline to be clever and funny, and as we all know, it's not. When I looked at this movement, I realized that Haydn uses this technique over and over again. He sets up musical expectations and then doesn't fulfill them. For example, what do we expect in a piece of music in terms of phrase structure? We usually expect phrases that are 8 measures long. This was true in Haydn's time, and this is equally true today. For example, here's a tune you might know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Haydn, in this movement, doesn't stick to the 8-measure phrase structure. He starts this movement with this phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then the next phrase is only 3 measures long. 1, 2, 3. Another device that Haydn uses to subvert our expectations is pulse. What do we expect in terms of pulse? Generally, we expect the pulse or the beat to stay the same. In this movement, however, Haydn writes fermatas over rests at the end of phrases. This tells the performer to pause for as long as they want. It breaks up the pulse, so listen to this. Fermata. We keep waiting for that next phrase to come, and it doesn't, it breaks up that pulse. So that answers the first question. Now let's turn to the second question. What can the performer do to enhance the humorous qualities of this music? Well, obviously the phrase structure is kind of set in stone, but we can enhance those odd 7-measure phrases through maybe phrasing. Maybe we could peter off at the end of the phrase to emphasize how incomplete it is. And with the fermatas, we actually have a tremendous amount of control. Haydn is basically giving the performer permission to hold those pauses for as long as they want. So in that way, the performer is a very active participant in creating the suspense and creating the humor. To sum up, Haydn, like any good comedian, uses specific devices to create humor in his music. In this case, he focuses mostly on phrase length and fermatas, breaking up the pulse. And I believe that as performers, if we are aware of these devices, we can give an even more convincing and funny performance of Haydn's music.